Someone is making your decisions for you, not with force, not with threats, and you have no idea it's happening. You think you're free. You think your choices are yours. You think the discomfort you feel around this person is just you being oversensitive. You're not oversensitive. You're being managed. Quiet control doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. By the time you feel it, it has already been working on you for months, maybe years. There are 5 signs. They don't look like control. That's the point. If you recognize yourself in even one of these, the mechanism is already inside your relationship. Pay attention. Sign 1. Your reality is being rewritten. You remember it one way. They remember it differently, and somehow, every single time, your version is the wrong one. This is gaslighting, not as a buzzword, as a documented psychological mechanism with a very specific function. The function is to make you distrust your own perception. Once your perception is unreliable, you need their version of events. You need them to interpret your own life. The psychiatrist Robin Stern mapped this pattern in clinical detail. She described it as a slow erosion, not a single attack on your reality, but 1,000 small ones. Each correction is small. That's not what happened. You're imagining things. You always do this. Individually, they sound like disagreements. Cumulatively, they are a demolition. Here is how it is living inside your relationship right now. You second-guess yourself before you speak. You rehearse what you're going to say, not to be clear, but to avoid being wrong. You apologize for things you are not sure you did. You feel crazy, and that feeling is the proof it's working. The defense is not to argue their version harder. Arguing inside their frame hands them control of the conversation. The defense is to document, not for them, for you. Write down events the same day they happen. Your memory is a weapon. Keep it sharp. When you stop needing their version, their primary tool of control goes silent. Sign 2. You owe them everything. They remind you of what they've done for you. Not once. Repeatedly. At the exact moments when you might push back. This is not generosity. It is investment. And the return they expect is your compliance. The sociologist Arlie Hochschild called this emotional labor debt. When someone performs visible acts of care and sacrifice, they create an invisible ledger. You didn't agree to the ledger. You didn't sign anything. But the debt accumulates anyway. And it is called on precisely when you start to think independently, when you consider a boundary, when you begin to say no. The debt is designed to expire your agency. You cannot act freely when you feel you owe. You feel it as guilt, that tightening in the chest when you consider doing something for yourself, something they wouldn't sanction. That guilt is not evidence that you owe them. It is evidence that the mechanism is working. The counter move is to name the ledger out loud, to yourself, in private. Say it plainly. This is not generosity. This is a bill. Then, and this is the crucial move, begin repaying perceived debts in small, deliberate ways. Not because you owe, because you are closing the account. A closed account cannot be leveraged. Their most reliable tool of compliance breaks when the debt reaches 0. Sign 3. Your world has gotten smaller. You see fewer people than you used to. Some friendships quietly ended. Some family members drifted. You barely noticed it happening. That was not an accident. Isolation is the oldest mechanism of control in existence. Remove a person's external references, their friends, their family, their independent life, and you become their only reality. Coercive controllers rarely say, "Stop seeing your friends." That is too visible, too easy to name. Instead, they make other relationships costly. They sulk when you make plans. They create incidents that require your presence. They make small comments about the people you love. Nothing dramatic, just persistent friction. Your friend doesn't seem to really care about you. Your sister always takes advantage. And you start to believe it, not because it is true, because repeated suggestions, delivered by someone close, reshape perception. The psychologist Evan Stark documented this in his clinical work on coercive control. He called it liberty crime, not physical confinement, but the systematic theft of a person's independent world. No bars, no locks, just a life that quietly contracts until the only door left open leads to them. Here is what it feels like from inside. You stop mentioning certain people around them to avoid the commentary. You start declining invitations before they even have to react. You police yourself on their behalf. You have internalized them so deeply that you do their work for them. The reclamation of your world begins with one reconnection, one phone call to someone who knew you before them, one meal with a friend you quietly abandoned. You will feel the guilt of it. Do it anyway. The guilt is not your conscience. It is their voice, which you have installed in your own head. Every person you bring back into your life is another reference point for reality, another perspective that is not theirs. This is not betrayal. This is survival. Sign 4. You fear their mood. You read them the moment they walk in. You scan the set of their jaw, the pace of their step, the tone of the first thing they say, and you adjust everything about yourself based on what you find. Your volume, your movements, your expressions, your needs. You call this knowing how to handle them, but that is not a relationship skill. That is a survival adaptation. When your primary energy in a relationship goes toward preventing someone's negative mood, you are not in a partnership. You are managing a volatile environment. The philosopher and stoic Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." But there is a prior condition, he assumed, that your environment is not actively weaponizing your fear of their instability. Mood control is a power mechanism. Their bad mood is not accidental. It is frequently a tool, consciously or not, that reshapes your behavior without a single instruction being given. The mood doesn't have to be explosive to be effective. A heavy silence, a particular look, a flat, unreachable coldness. These are all forms of the same instruction. The instruction is, fix this, and you do, every time, which confirms to them and to your nervous system that their mood controls your actions. Here is the disruption. Stop fixing it, not with anger, with neutrality. Observe the mood, do not absorb it. Continue with what you were doing. Do not ask what is wrong. Do not perform concern. Let the mood exist without you becoming its solution. This is the most important thing you will do, because the moment their mood stops moving you, it stops being a tool, and they will have to find another way to communicate, or they will escalate. And that escalation will tell you everything you need to know about whether the relationship can survive your freedom. Sign 5. You've stopped recognizing yourself. You used to have opinions, strong ones, positions you would argue. Now you find yourself stating their views back as though they are your own. You used to know what kind of music moved you, what kind of people energized you, what made you feel like yourself. Now there is a blankness where those things used to be. This is identity erosion, and it is the deepest form of quiet control. Carl Jung wrote about the persona, the mask we construct to navigate the world, but he warned of something darker when the persona becomes so thick, so imposed, that the person underneath disappears. The controlling person does not destroy your identity in one act. They gradually replace it with one that serves them better. They express subtle disapproval of your passions, nothing dramatic, just a flatness, a change of subject, a slight dismissal when you talk about what excites you. After enough repetitions, you stop mentioning those things, not because you've lost interest, because you've learned that interest invites dismissal. They react with subtle warmth only when you conform, when you agree, when you defer, when you shrink. So you learn to shrink to get the warmth you need. You have been trained, as precisely as any conditioning experiment. Your approval-seeking behavior has been shaped by intermittent reinforcement, warmth given unpredictably, not for being yourself, but for being useful to them. This is the sign that cuts deepest, because when you lose yourself in someone, you lose the very faculty that could evaluate whether the relationship is harming you. You cannot use a damaged compass to find your way. This is why identity erosion is the final goal of quiet control. With you gone, there is no one left to resist. So here is the reclamation. It begins with retrieval, not confrontation. Ask yourself, what did you love before them? What did you believe before them? What made you feel most like yourself before they had any influence on the answer? Whatever you find there, go back to one of those things. Today, not as rebellion, as archaeology. You are digging for yourself. That self is not gone. It has been suppressed, and suppressed things do not disappear. They wait. Now, we need to talk about the architecture underneath all 5 signs, because these signs do not operate randomly. They are a system. The person doing this to you may not know they are doing it. Some controllers are fully conscious and deliberate. Many are not. They are running patterns they were given by parents, by past relationships, by their own wounds. This does not excuse the harm, but it changes your strategy. You are not fighting an enemy. You are dismantling a system. The 5 signs form a closed loop. Gaslighting destroys your perception. The debt destroys your agency. Isolation destroys your external reference. Mood control destroys your peace. Identity erosion destroys your resistance. Remove one ring and the others weaken. This is why any single countermove begins to loosen the whole. You do not need to dismantle the whole thing at once. You need to start. Let's talk about what quiet control feels like in the body, because your mind will rationalize. Your body won't lie. There is a particular kind of tiredness in relationships where someone is quietly controlling you. It is not the tiredness of work or effort. It is the tiredness of vigilance. You are always on duty, always monitoring. Even when they are not present, you are thinking about them, anticipating their reactions, pre-solving their moods, managing the version of yourself they will encounter. This is a physiological response to a psychological threat. Your nervous system has classified this person as a source of danger. Not danger you can name, danger you can only feel. The body knows before the mind admits it. Your body began this conversation months before you started having it consciously. Listen to what it has been trying to tell you. Now let us name the person, not by their relationship to you, by their psychological profile, because this pattern has a shape and the shape has a name. Research into what psychologists call covert narcissism, not the grandiose, obvious kind, but the quiet, victim posturing kind, maps almost perfectly onto all 5 signs. The covert controller presents as sensitive, as misunderstood, as someone who has been deeply hurt and needs your protection. This presentation is not a lie. It is a strategy they may not even know they are running. Your empathy is the entry point. The more empathetic you are, the more effective the strategy. This is not an instruction to stop being empathetic. Empathy is not your weakness. It is being weaponized. The solution is not to remove the capacity. It is to protect the access. Not everyone who claims to suffer deserves your surrender. Suffering and entitlement to control are not the same thing. You can have compassion for someone's wound and still refuse to be managed by it. These 2 positions are not in conflict. Let's talk about the moment of recognition. The exact moment when you have named what is happening and you are sitting with the weight of it. It is not a comfortable moment, because naming the mechanism does not make the relationship disappear. It makes it more visible, and more visible things require more conscious choices. Some of you are watching this about a partner, some about a parent, some about a colleague or a friend. The relationship changes the intensity. The mechanism does not change. Parents are the oldest operating system. What your parents installed in you about worth, about love, about what you owe the people who give you care, runs very deep and very quietly. If a parent used any of these 5 mechanisms, you did not arrive at your current relationship as a blank slate. You arrived pre-trained to find controlling behavior familiar, pre-trained to confuse management for love, pre-trained to mistake someone needing you with someone wanting you. This is not self-blame. The training was not your choice, but you are no longer a child, and that means the operating system can be rewritten. Now let's build the actual defense. Not theory, concrete moves. The first concrete move is observation without reaction. For 1 week, simply observe without responding differently. Notice the pattern. Map it. Do not announce that you are doing this. Pattern recognition is power. When you can see the mechanism operating in real time, it loses half its force. The second move is deliberate non-compliance on small things, not confrontation. Small, quiet, private choices that reclaim your agency incrementally. Order what you want from a menu without checking if they approve. Watch the program you want without apologizing. Make a small plan without consulting them first. These seem trivial. They are not. Each small act of autonomous choice rebuilds the neural pathway of self-trust that controlling behavior has been eroding. The third move is to establish one thing in your week that belongs entirely to you. A time, a place, a practice. Immovable, non-negotiable, not discussed or justified. Protect it with boredom, not drama. I do this on Thursdays. No explanation, no negotiation, no emotional content for them to grab. Emotional content gives them material to work with. Flatness gives them nothing. A flat no is harder to erode than an explained no. The fourth move is to rebuild one external relationship per month. Not many. One, a coffee, a conversation, a message to someone you have been quietly avoiding because of the cost it carries. You will be surprised how quickly the people who cared for you before respond to being reached. Isolation feels permanent because it is gradual. Recovery is faster. The fifth move, and this is the one that changes everything, is to make one decision per day based entirely on your own values and preferences with no consideration of their reaction. Start with the smallest decisions. What you eat, what you read, how you spend a single hour. The object is not the decision. The object is the practice of trusting yourself as the authority. Self-trust is a muscle. You have been asked to not use it. The way you rebuild it is exactly the same as every other atrophied muscle. You use it a little under resistance, repeatedly. Now the hardest question, and you need to sit with this one. What do you get from this relationship that makes the cost worth paying? Not what you used to get or what you hope to get, what you actually receive now today. If your answer is, I don't know, that is an answer. If your answer is nothing, that is the most important data point this video will give you. Not every relationship that has this pattern needs to end. Some can be reformed, but reform requires the other person to see the mechanism and choose to stop running it. That requires honesty from them that controlling personalities very rarely arrive at voluntarily. They typically arrive at it only when they are about to lose the relationship entirely. Which means that your willingness to leave, real willingness, visible, credible, not as a threat but as a real possibility you have genuinely prepared for, is the single most powerful catalyst for change. Not because you are using it as leverage, but because a person who has genuinely decided they will be okay alone cannot be controlled by someone who depends on their fear of that aloneness. The fear of being alone is one of the primary levers of control. Remove the fear and you remove the lever. This means you need to build a life that exists independently of them, not in secret, as a structure, as infrastructure, your own finances clearly understood, your own social world actively maintained, your own sense of competence and capability. Independence is not the opposite of intimacy. It is the condition of healthy intimacy. Two people who do not need each other can choose each other. That is the only version of love that is not a cage. Let's talk about what happens when you begin to resist, because you need to know this before you start. When you start to assert yourself, controlling behavior frequently escalates before it retreats. This is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that the control is losing its grip. Expect guilt trips to intensify. Expect the debt to be called in more aggressively. Expect their mood to worsen before it is withdrawn as a weapon. This is the most dangerous period. Not dangerous in the sense of threat, though sometimes it is, but dangerous in the sense that it is the moment when most people capitulate. Because the escalation feels like evidence that you are causing harm. It is designed to feel that way. Do not confuse their discomfort with your wrongdoing. Their pain is real. Their pain being real does not mean your boundaries caused it. Hold the course. The storm does not last. And on the other side of it is either a relationship rebuilt on honesty or the clarity of what could not survive your freedom. Both of those outcomes are better than what you have now. What you have now is neither relationship nor freedom. It is management with the appearance of intimacy. Here is what self-mastery looks like in this specific context. It is not the absence of feeling. You will feel the guilt, the anxiety, the pull back to compliance. Self-mastery is feeling all of it and acting from your values anyway. The Stoics understood this with precision. Epictetus, who was literally enslaved, wrote that no external circumstance, no master, no condition, no threat can touch the inner citadel of your will. He was not speaking in metaphor. He understood that the mechanism of control requires your participation. The moment you withdraw your participation, the mechanism fails. You are not powerless. You have been convinced that you are. There is a difference, a profound one. The quiet controller's greatest asset is your belief in their power over you. Remove the belief. The power dissolves. You already know which sign landed hardest. You knew before I finished describing it. That recognition, that tightening, that quiet, yes, that one, is your compass pointing north. Follow it. The 5 signs were never about them. They were always about returning you to yourself. That is what this channel is for. See you in the next one. If this found you at the right moment, subscribe. Every video is built to give you back something that was quietly taken.